Who is the most famous person you've met? Used to be a triangle messenger, bicycle messenger in Pittsburgh, and would deliver scripts to WQED, the local broadcast channel. One day I'm inside delivering a package and none other than Fred Rogers walks up and introduces himself. He introduced himself to me. Not only that, he was very engaging, asking questions. A true kind individual. The rub of it, about a month later I am back at the studios delivering another package, and Mr. Rogers yells across the lobby, "Hey, my name, I'm floored." Here is this guy totally in the moment, being a human being. He was authentic and truly wishing to engage with me on a personal level. I will never forget the heart that guy had. From what I have been told, he was this way 100%. True human. I grew up on the same street as a couple of Fred Rogers' grandkids, and one of them was my best friend. I got to spend a good bit of time with him, and he was wildly authentic. He'd call himself my other grandfather, and was no different than his TV persona. It was just him. One time after a long day together, I took a nap on his couch while he played piano. Definitely a core memory, though I had no idea how significant that was at the time. Napping on Fred Rogers' couch while he talks and plays piano just sounds like the most soothing, relaxing, and comforting experience any human could hope to experience. Edit. Typo. If that isn't heaven, then I don't want to go. Amazing. I think Mr. Rogers would remind us that this kind of thing happened on Earth and we can make it happen again. Also a native Pittsburgher, my friend's dad during his roofing days was trying to hitchhike a ride home, and Mr. Rogers picked him up and dropped him wherever he was going. Imagine a television star at the height of his popularity picking up a grubby roofer in workwear. If that doesn't say everything about what kind of man Fred Rogers was, I don't know what else would. I'm not a religious man, and rarely attend church, but Fred Rogers is deserving of sainthood. A lot of bad stuff has been done in the name of religion, but if all religious people were like Mr. Rogers, I think it would be hard for people to find fault with it. My first job was working for Steve Irwin at his zoo. Got to meet him many times before he died. Edit. Yes, I get it. Haha, good, I met him before he died. I wrote originally I worked at his zoo before he died, then added in extra words and left that in, probably should not have. As a fellow Sunny Coast local, I remember seeing him feeding the crocs before he was famous. Dad had a few encounters with him through his work and said how genuine he was. His death absolutely rocked the area. At school the next day, we all made cards for his family, and one of the teachers dropped them off at the memorial outside the zoo. I admit I cried with my son when that happened. At least he died doing something he loved. I screwed up Ron Howard's lunch order one time. Him and his family were golfing, and I worked in the golf club bar, and they came in for a quick bite to eat. Not a single thing went right, but they were all extremely nice and understanding. 10 out of 10 would embarrass myself in front of them again. Narrator. He wouldn't. The rare perfect Reddit response. I got to meet Danny DeVito. I have no more need for other celebrity. What was he like in real life? Really nice, and a little befuddled. Exactly what you'd hope for. Did you say you look taller on TV? I was teaching and took my class to Ellis Island and the 9/11 Museum. A kid said Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is on our ferry coming back from the island. It was actually him. I took a deep breath and went over to him and his agent and said I had 50 students that would absolutely love to meet you if you can. Dude stood out in the rain and said hello and took pictures with all my students. He walked down the street afterwards and was high-fiving people who recognized him. Class act. I think you have him confused with someone else. That was Roger Murdoch. He's an airline pilot. Honestly, my biggest regret was not saying this. Joey. And he says that lots of times, you don't even run down court. And that you don't really try. Except during the playoffs. Roger Murdoch. The hell I don't. Listen. Kid. I've been hearing that crap ever since I was at UCLA. I'm out there busting my buns every night. Tell your old man to drag Walton and Lanier up and down the court for 48 minutes. Met Matt Damon. Had a brief conversation with him while he was getting his wig glued on during the production of a film. Spent real time with. Took Pedro Pascal out for drinks and dinner in Beijing. Dude is the nicest guy ever. Edit. Well shit, this blew up. I've added a link below to an audio clip he sent my friend back in the States. The woman's voice is his manager, The guy drunkenly going, "Oh my God," in the background is me. How did you get to take Pedro Pascal out for drinks and dinner? It was his first night in Beijing working on The Great Wall. We had a meeting that ended, and we were both just kind of hanging out on a Friday evening outside of the production's hotel in Huairou, about an hour outside of Beijing where I lived at the time. I asked what his plans were. He seemed tired and bewildered. He had no plans until production started again on Monday. I was a fan, but told him I lived in the city and asked if he wanted to see Beijing. I told him I could get him back to his hotel at the end of the night. He was like, "Fuck yeah. It was fun." He left voice messages for my friends back home as the Viper of Dorn. We drank beer and tequila and bar hopped. No one recognized him. He was friendly and funny and super casual. Just the nicest dude. I met Snoop Dogg and he signed an album I bought from him. He called me Young Tiger Woods, and then told me that he would see me at Top. Said he would be there waiting for me. As a musician, I was over the moon. And yes, he smelled like straight gas. Can't imagine Snoop being anything but friendly. Dude is so high all he knows is chill. I smoked a cigarette with Joan Jett back in the day. She's a rad lady. I met her once in the elevator of a building she lived in on Long Island. Introduced myself and told her I love her music. She shook my hand and told me call her Joni. Super cool and nice. Tom Hanks. He had a lot of questions about the owl I had on my arm. I also have a lot of questions about the owl on your arm. He was a son of a bitch and I loved him for hating me. I worked at an environmental education center with injured and unreleasable birds of prey. Little guy was an owl, so a turd with wings, and he did not give a fuck about anyone or anything including Tom Hanks. At first I thought you meant Hanks. Yeah, I was like, Tom really did a number on that bird wrangler. I met Linkin Park a while back. Chester was such a kind and gentle guy. I'm not a fan of their music, but the way Chester interacted with fans, especially those with disabilities, shows he was such an amazing human. Him singing at Chris Cornell's funeral was something else. His death genuinely made me sad for a long time. Muhammad Ali shook my hand and held his fist up to me when I was 12. When John Wayne went to the local drugstore, he would buy all the kids an ice cream cone. One time, I asked for a triple scoop. He handed it to me, and I promptly dropped it. He looked down at me, shook his head a little, smiled, and said, "Sorry little lady, now you only get 2 scoops," and bought me another cone. John Wayne called me little lady. He technically also gave you 5 scoops. That's way more than any other kid'll. Rosa Parks. A few members of my high school band got to play a little concert for her. I have no idea how the school arranged that, but it was very cool. Where did she sit? In her wheelchair. This is honestly the funniest fucking thing I've read this week. Thank you. Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd. He flew into my small hometown to buy my mother's ex-boyfriend's Mustang airplane. I honestly didn't know who he was. My best friend was a big fan and thought I was pulling a joke on him till he saw him. It was the end of November and he actually joined my mother's family for Thanksgiving dinner. Former U.S. President Harry S. Truman in 1962. How old are you? 72. Truman was very nice to my father and I remember being shocked because he was in color. TV and newspapers were black and white back then. That is absolutely adorable. I've met Santa a few times. Santa. I know him. David Bowie was dreamy. I met Bowie on a hiking trail of all places. It was near the house he used to have in the Catskills. I was going down the MT and he was going up, so it was a quick hey and head nod, classic hiker exchange. The only thing that stood out was that he was wearing a white linen shirt and designer jeans while hiking. It was a random Tuesday, so there weren't many people. As I was walking toward him, I was like, "How this guy looks like David Bowie," and then as I got closer it was like, "Holy shit, it's David Bowie." I used to attend private screenings at Skywalker Ranch. Edit. Didn't know people would be so excited about it, haha. Skywalker Ranch has its own team of police and firefighters that secure the ranch, which my dad was one of the chiefs of. My dad was super friendly, helpful, and just a chill guy altogether, so we were invited multiple times during my childhood to hang out at the ranch. Sometimes we would go on tours of the property and old movie prop buildings since George Lucas still had all of them, go to movie screenings he would host at the ranch, or just hang out and take in the peaceful scenery. My favorite was always the library. The most beautiful 2 to 3 story library with all of his favorite books that inspired him with a beautiful twirling staircase. I also loved his peacocks that would roam the property fluffing out their tails. And in the main house, he has the original Indiana Jones hat and whip encased and on display, as well as the original lightsabers and all of the awards he's won over the years. Not every movie he showed was a winner, but it wasn't about the movie, it was about just hanging out at the ranch. Probably one of my favorite memories, although now I've moved out of the area, I haven't been there in years. I met Post Malone once. Dude was exactly like you'd imagine. Chill, wearing a hoodie, and covered in tattoos. I tried to ask for a picture but got too nervous and just ended up awkwardly nodding at him. He nodded back. That's basically a vibe exchange, right? I would be very concerned if he wasn't covered in tattoos. Pre-Malone. Pamela Anderson, and she was really nice. She was so nice. I met her in an elevator once. She took her heels off and said beauty is pain. I met Barack Obama. Even more charming and charismatic in person, if you can believe it. Who is the most famous person you've met? Write in the comments. Also, do you want a second part? Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Bye.